الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We'll continue inshallah ta'ala with the subject of al-fiqh, and we're still in the chapter of al-riba, and hopefully everyone understand the two types of riba al-fadl and riba al-nasi'a, and we need to inshallah ta'ala remember them with the Arabic terms inshallah, and of course what it means, and to be prepared for all kinds of questions inshallah next week, not this week's exam, but to be able to we want to make sure that we understand it very well inshallah, and how the riba applies in both cases. And one of these types, which is a nasi'a, or you can have it in a separate category which is riba al-qard, the riba of loans, which is the riba of the jahiliyyah. And this is what is, widespread among people when it comes to the subject of the loans, and how that the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ clearly states, كل قرض جر نفعا فهو ربا. Every qard, every loan that brings benefit is riba. Any loan that brings benefit is riba. And in the book, where we talked about the different categories or different terminologies, then afterwards he talks about the ways that in the deen of Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made ways for people to avoid riba. Because some people, they think that the only way for them to do deals and contracts is that they have to deal with riba. This is the way of those who upon falsehood. The spaciousness of the deen of Islam in the ease of al-mu'amalat is there, the transactions, but people make it very tight for themselves, and the evil outcome of the riba is something that is beyond one's imagination of how evil the outcome of a riba is. So going here, because we want to go through the book inshallah, he mentioned some of the things, 4 points or 5 points here, and these points, some of it is a chapter by itself. Each one is a chapter by itself in Bab al-Mu'amalat, in the subject of al-Mu'amalat or transactions with its rulings and conditions. But we'll mention them briefly now. And I was thinking, inshallah ta'ala, once we finish this subject of al-Mu'amalat, we'll go through the different aspects of transactions from another source till we finish it, inshallah. But going brief here, he says, you see where the place it says, I don't have the English translation, al-Turuq, the ways that Islam opened ways for people to deal without a riba and to avoid the riba. من هذه الطرق, and he mentioned, I have here 5 points. The first one, أنه أباح شركة المضاربة. What is the English equivalent? What does it say? The one he permitted? Mudaraba. What's mudaraba? Okay, that's good. That it's permissible to have sharikat al-mudaraba. Sharika is, whether it's the word is used for company, partnership, and it's a sharika, it's a contract, and it's a chapter in the books of fiqh, the different types of sharika, the different types of partnership, whether it's called sharikatul abdan or al-anan, or one of which is al-mudaraba. It's a deal between two individuals, and it's called al-mudaraba, comes from al-darb. Al-darb fil ard is when you walk on the face of earth, and it's also used for basically work. So what is it? What's the definition of it? So we remember sharikat al-mudaraba. The reason why he mentioned that first is because before we get to the meaning of it. What riba is, people, they want to make money. And someone might have money and the other one doesn't have money. But he might have some talent, some experience in something. He wants to open a business, for example. He doesn't have the money. So he goes to someone that has money, give me a loan, so that he can take the money and invest, and then pay back with riba, because it's a loan, and that's haram, of course. So how to figure out a solution to this? Not everybody has money, and not everyone that has money has the expertise or the ways to invest his money. So you need to have both. They complete one another, they complement one another, And this is how life goes without dealing with this evil consequences of riba. So one of which is sharikat al-mudaraba. So when you think of al-mudaraba, think of someone that has money and someone has physical effort or physical ability, and not both money or both physical abilities. So it's one with money and one without money, but he has ability to work with the money. So he says وهي شركة, so it's a partnership. يكون رأس المال فيها من شخص. رأس المال is the capital. The capital of the money, they're going to form a company now. The capital of the money is from one or from group of people, doesn't matter. But this is now the money is owned by some people or by one person. Let's take the simplest example here. One person has the money, so he's the one that is coming up with the capital of the company. والعمل من الشخص الآخر. من شخص آخر. العمل, the actual work is from someone else. So this is how simple and how clear it is. So one has the money and one will do the work. Think of an example, someone that has money and someone, he knows how to fix cars, for example. So he says, okay, I'll open the shop. Everything, is he'll pay for it, and he owns the shop and everything, and you work. And then what's the deal here? Is he working as a someone that is hourly working with money to be given to him? That's not sharika. That's not partnership. Partnership, that means they will share the profit. So then he says والربح مشترك بينهما بالقدر المتفق عليه. الربح, the profit, is between them with whatever they decide of percentage of who would get what. والخسارة, so the ربح, so one has the money, so if there's a profit, they'll share the profit. They can decide 50%, 25, 30, whatever. It depends. And they go by the urf, by the norm of the market or whatever there is. So it has to be والربح. الربح is the profit. They share the profit and not the capital, because the capital money or the money that is what the company is made from is from one person. بالقدر المتفق عليه, with exact percentage or share that is well known. So this is with the profit. What about the khusara? If there's a loss, because it's valid to happen that they would have loss. والخسارة على صاحب رأس المال. الخسارة is only upon the owner of the money. The worker doesn't incur any loss, money-wise. He says, أما صاحب الجهد, as the one that put the effort والعمل, فلم يتحمل من الخسارة شيئا إذ يكفيه أنه خسر جهده وعمله. He does not incur upon himself any money loss, because he already lost his work and his effort. He's not making money of this. He's working with his effort, hoping that there will be profit. And if there's a profit, they will share it. And if there's no profit, the one with the money lost, whatever the loss is, and the one that put the effort, he doesn't lose anything. He doesn't lose money. But he's not ordered to, okay, you have now 1,000 on you, that he becomes in debt because of this. No. So this is how al-mudaraba is. If you have any questions, inshallah ta'ala, at the end. So this is how simple the sharikat al-mudaraba is. And the reason why, again, to remember this is how the mudaraba. Because if two people, one of the forms of the sharika is that they call it sharikatul abdan. Al-abdan is, I'll just give you an example. Two people are in a partnership with both their efforts. So they're both in the field of IT, for example. So they make a company, they both work, right? And there's no money involved. Or both they go get wood from the woods. So they both work and they both sell, and the profits is shared between them. And the same thing with the loss. So this is with their bodies only, not with money. And there's the sharika can be with both. Both sides will give money and work. Both would work and money, and also with matters of shares will be with the same principle. The loss of money is upon the money, and not upon the loss of those who put effort. So this is only one type of sharika, and there are other types of sharikat. So this is sharikat al-mudarab, as a way for people to invest their money without having to deal with it. The second one is, he says, أباح بيع السلم. بيع السلم also is a chapter in Fiqh. It also has so much details to it. As-Salam or as-Salaf refers to a loan or something that is deferred. What is it? Is bay'u ajil bi'ajil. To sell something, ajil is deferred, with ajil, which is immediate. So you have money, but the product that you want to purchase is not here yet. And the very clear example of this, which was at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, at-tamr, for example, or anything that is cultivated, it's not there yet. You come a year or 2 years before. كانوا يسلفون في السنة والسنتين, as it mentioned in the hadith, in 1 year or 2 years. 1 year before they harvest the thing, they go, the one with the money, he would purchase from the owner of the land that he's going still to start to cultivate his land. He would purchase not something that is unknown. Something has to be described, as he says, the definition of it. But before we get the definition of it, because it has conditions, of course, so that it removes any jahala, any uncertainty or any deception. But the concept of bay'u salam is that someone would have to pay something now, and the product is to be received later. And it does not exist now. So he says, وَهُوَ بَيْعُ آجِلٍ بِعَاجِلٍ فَمَنْ كَانَ مُضْطَرًا لِلْمَالِ, whoever is in need of the money, يَبِيعُ عَلى الْمُوسَمِ مِنْ إِنْتَاجِ بِسِعْرٍ مُنَاسِبٍ وبشروط مذكورة في كتب الفقه. He referred it to the books of fiqh. He did not discuss it then. Meaning, the need is there. The farmer, for example, he's in need of money to work on his land. So he would be in need of the money, and the one with the money, he will pay a lesser price because it's early. So and he would get an advantage of getting a lesser price. And this way of buying and selling, it has to be this way. And all of the money has to be paid up front. Otherwise, if the money is not paid, why would the farmer would take something less if he can cultivate his land, and then at the day of harvesting, he can pay with a higher price? So it only makes sense, and it's only to be given upfront the entire money. But it has to be with specific conditions, one of which, and this is something that can we discuss later, inshallah ta'ala, the selling here is not based on what the land will come up with uncertainty. He's not purchasing the harvesting of this land after 1 year. So it comes up with 10 or 20 or 30. This is uncertainty. So it has to be sold with, if it's something makil, remember the things that are weighed versus the things that are measured with volume. So if something that is weight, for example, then he's purchasing, say, I'm just making up something, 100 pounds of dates. Dates is 100 pounds of anything that people sell, right? 100 pounds of dates. Say dates, for example, 100 pounds. And what type of dates? And the size of it, big, small, whatever. So all of the characteristics of it, that it's something that is normally, people, they would do all the time. And he would purchase it, and he would give the money. And then the farmer takes the money and he works on his land. Then when the time comes, after a year or so, he's supposed to give what to the seller, to the buyer? 100 pounds or whatever they decided upon, dates with these qualifications. Something happened, the crops did not come through, things like this. It is not the problem of the buyer. Then he needs to figure that out, to go buy it from somewhere else, or the contract can be cancelled, and then they can figure out what to do with the losses. But you understand, it's not something upon uncertainty, it's with certainty. And as a result of that, some of the contract that people can use nowadays, what they call it nowadays, عقد الاستصناع, for example, you're purchasing something that does not exist now, but that is going to be manufactured. You can pay it upfront, but as long as all of the qualifications and the characteristics are explained clearly, and when it's made, then you can have it, and if it fits exactly the exact description, then it's fine. If it's not, then you have the right to return it. So this is bay'u salam specifically to things that are produced from the land. The third one, أباح بيع مؤجل. أباح, it's permissible to sell something مؤجل, deferred also, which is again زيادة عن الثمن في بيع النقد. you have something. النقد is the immediate one to purchase something and you pay it all of it at once, like you say you pay it cash, versus that you would make payments. That's fine, and this is permissible. لتيسير مصالح الناس, to make it easy for the people and to avoid riba. But this also with conditions. So it has to be between the owner and the buyer and the seller only. There's no banks involved. There's no financial institutions. There's no a third party involved. It's just, as they say, you draw a straight line between the buyer and the seller. So someone has the merchandise, and he, again, as we said in Majlis al-Aqd, they're sitting discussing the deal. So he would say, if you purchase it now, it's for 1,000. If you want to purchase it pay it off after 6 months, then it's going to be 1,500. Which one would you like? The 1,500 after 6 months, sure. And they sign the contract and it's done. Then it's not permissible to increase anything afterwards whatsoever, even if he's late. No late fees, none of this is permissible, because the purchase price is whatever they agreed upon, whether immediate or later. And of course, it makes it easy for some, but it becomes a loan the person has to pay. And what they do with, how the banks do, or even some of the people in certain parts of the world, they do this. They act like the bank, and they do kinds of tricks to avoid whatever. They say, for example, someone has money. It's usually not in the major things. Someone wants to purchase a book or a phone or something like this. He doesn't have the money, so instead of going to the bank, they go to this guy that is known that he would do the transaction for him. He would say to him, I want to purchase this phone. That person has a deal with the phone company or with a phone store or whatever. You tell him, go to the store, pick whatever phone you want and take it, and then I'll deal with them or things like this. This is haram. And the way that if a person wants to make it halal, that person with the money has to go purchase it and have it in his ownership, then he sells it. But as long as there's no tricks to avoid or the clarity of the riba, because this is also can be tricky and become haram. So it has to be buyer and a seller without anyone in between. Number 4, حض على وجود مؤسسات القرض الحسن, the encouragement to have goodly loans, whether it's to personal loans or groups or governments or whatever, to bring this goodness among the people, because the qard, we know that people, they want to give charity. And giving charity is something that some of it is zakah, which is an obligation. But also people, they like to give charity. Generous people, they like to give charity. And al-qard, if you give someone a loan, right, this is half of it is to be considered as charity, as the hadith in Sunan ibn Majah. If you give someone a loan, immediately, if you give someone $100 as a loan, immediately you get $50 as if you gave it away for charity. And you still have the hope that this person would return back the loan to you. So what he's mentioning here, imagine there's an institution that is made to give people goodly loan. No riba, no late fees, excuse me, nothing of this. And people can give and can participate, and they can get their money without any, this is a charitable thing, no muawada, no profit in it whatsoever. So, and you get, when you look at it from the perspective of charity, someone gives charity, he does not wait for it, it's gone. But he seeks the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and hereafter. If something like that is given in an account that is for goodly loan and to be done in a good way, still the person, as if he gave half of that in charity, and he still have some money is going to come back to him, which is the money that he paid. So these institutions or whatever, then they would study the cases and things like this and give to whoever is in need of the loan. And they can deal with all kinds of conditions that they would make sure that the money is returned without adding anything to the loan, and making sure that they won't also lose. They don't have to make money. And this is the issue with the riba. You don't make money more, but at the same time you don't lose your money, that's fine. So this is the subject of al-qard al-hasan. Number 5, شرع الإسلام دفع الزكاة المديون المحتاج. The zakah is to be given to the one that is having a debt and he's in need. And faqir, poor, he does not have any ownership, wal gharib, So the different categories of zakat, one of which is someone has a loan, you give from your zakah money to pay off the zakah if a person is not able to pay his zakah, but not to pay the riba, of course, that he put upon himself. So he said, تلك هي أهم الأبواب. This is one of the most important ways that it's opened for people, whether it's individuals or others, to have honor and dignity and to fulfill their needs without having to deal with this matter, the riba that brings the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon those who deal with it. So we get these points. So we said شركة المضاربة, السلم, بيع المؤجل, the deferred, selling something in a deferred transaction, and having قرض حسن, goodly loan, and the zakah number 5. Okay. Then after that, the next point is فوائد البنوك, or they call it فوائد, interest of the banks and the rulings of it. He says they call it in Arabic فوائد, like they call it interest, right? It's riba, but the word, since it's widespread, الفوائد is the plural of فائدة. الفائدة means a benefit, right? Someone gets a benefit. And what they mean by this is فائدة ما يسمى بالنقود السائلة, the cash money or so, something as an increase. So this is where the banuk, the banks or the like of it, they would give it as a result of bonds or saving accounts and things like this. And we need to understand clearly when the subject of the banks comes in place, the bank is an institution for lending money and taking money as a loan. Banks are not in the business of investing money or making mudaraba or any of this. And in some of the Muslim world, they lie to the people. They say that we are investing your money. We're taking your money and we are investing it. And they're liars, because by the laws of every land, every country, the institution that it's called bank, the aqd of it, ta'sis of it, the contract of its establishment, it's based on giving and taking loans, and that's it. They're not in the business of investing money. And if they invest money, they're only allowed to invest in the capital money that the bank was established with. You know, to establish a bank, you have to have quite some money of the owner of it. So they can invest in this money, but they're not allowed to invest from the money of those who put their money in the bank. So that's why, as we said, in matters of transactions, we have to understand the nature of the relationship. It's always a contract. So when you go to the bank to put your money in there, you are giving the bank a loan. This is how it is. You can say, no, I'm saving my money. No, the real contract between you, because it's according to the ma'ani, to the meaning of it, not of what is being said. If they call it a beautiful thing, they can call it whatever they can call it, but the actual transaction is that you are giving the bank a loan, and in return they will give you an interest or whatever the riba. And the bank, if someone wants to have a business, to open a business or something, he goes to the bank to do what? To have the bank as a partner with him? No. The bank will give him a loan with a higher interest, and the bank make the difference between both interest rates. So all of that is riba. This is the harb from Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So he says, وَهِيَ مِنَ الرِّبَى بَلْ هِيَ الرِّبَى بِعَيْنِ. He says, this is from the riba, but rather, this is the exact meaning of a riba. There's nothing more clear in riba than this. This is exactly how the riba in Jahiliyyah was. And how when something is without any doubt whatsoever, becomes to some that there's nothing wrong with it. It is one of the craziest things that you can ever witness whatsoever. And it's all these types of deception. So even if they call it fawaid or interest, this is the clear riba that is forbidden in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And any increase to any loan is ijma', consensus, that is haram. And he mentioned here the statement of Sheikh Muhammad ibn Ibrahim rahimahullah, the Mufti of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia before Sheikh ibn Baz rahimahullah. He says, وَالْحَقِيقَةُ فِيمَا يُقَالُ عَنْهُ قَرْضٌ لَيْسَ قَرْضًا. When things were early on, he said the reality of it, when they call it loan, it's not loan, because why is that? Al-qard, the word al-qard, which is going back, step backward, right? Because we said every loan that brings benefit, then it's riba. So if they call it qard, if they call it a qard, which is to be translated as a loan, it's not qard. Because the qard in Islam is what? Without an increase. So when they add an increase to it, then it's not qard anymore. This becomes what? It's a form of a muawada, profitable deal here. And the qard in Islam, the reality of the qard from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that it does not involve profit. It's like when you give a gift to someone, so give me something in return. Whether you give me as a gift, it's a gift. No, I'm giving you a gift, but you have to give me that much money. Then it's not a gift. No, I'm calling it a gift. So you see how, so qard means no increase in it whatsoever because it's a good deed. So he says, لأن المقصود بالقرض الإحسان والإرفاق. Where the objective of the qard is goodness, and al-irfaq. This is a foundation of al-qard. You're being kind and generous and to others. وهذا معاوضة ظاهرة. And the other one that the reality of what they do is معاوضة, is profitable trade. فهو في الحقيقة بيع دراهم إلى أجل. What's the root of it, where it's coming from, which is already haram, and this is something that we explained before to show the foundation of al-muamalat or the transactions. They are basically selling darahim, selling money, selling dollars to a deferred time, to a later time. وربحها ربحا معلوما مشروطا. And as a result of that, they make profit, well-known profit to them. So you go to the bank, you put your money, you're selling the $100 for 110 after a year, or whatever the percentages is. So it's not permissible to sell money with a deferred, as we heard about this before in the Nasi'ah. So by this we see that what the banks they take from loans and give it as a result of loans and things like that, it's complete riba, and this is increased. So there's no doubt about this whatsoever. And this is the last thing that is mentioned here. And that's why it's important, even when people on an individual level, they take loans from one another, it's valid. Sometimes a brother would ask another brother, can I have something, can you give me a loan? This is a valid deal, but it's not aqd muawada, it's not a profitable trade. This is a good deed. That the one that is going to give the loan, if he's willing, then he is doing something of goodness from him. But of course, there are etiquettes and things to be observed. First of all, and I'll just brief some of the points that the ulama they mentioned because of the hadith and also the verses in the Quran, that you should not, as an individual, should not rush into taking loans from people, because there is consequences as a result of that. And the Prophet ﷺ used to seek refuge in Allah from this, from اللهم إني أعوذ بك من the four things that the Prophet ﷺ that you seek refuge in Allah from before salam and after the tashahhud, one of which is from al-maghram wal-ma'tham. Al-maghram, seeking refuge from being in debt. Being in debt is a heavy thing. That the Prophet ﷺ would refuse to make salatul janazah upon someone if he has a debt on him, till someone would take over his loan, or he would not make salah on him because of the heaviness of the debt. Even though the original ruling of it's permissible. But once a person becomes into this deal, then he put on himself a heavy burden that he has to make sure that he pays it off. And that's why never to be at ease with it. And sometimes people, they should only limit it if they are in need of such a thing. If they want to do business, get into partnership. And people, of course, have to be careful because there's all kinds of weak iman, and people don't know what they're doing, and they waste each other money. But if you want to make business, have someone that can be convinced, and you sell the idea to someone, and they would invest their money. But don't take loans for this. Don't take loans to go for Hajj or Umrah. If you want to get married, as Musa alayhi salam, he made a loan upon himself where he worked for his father-in-law for 8 years, and he made it 10, and he fulfilled the better of the two conditions of the contract. If it's for the necessity of marriage, sure. But people take a loan to get married so that they can have their wedding in an expensive hall, for example, or things that is of no valid reason whatsoever. So the ease. Anyone wants anything. People, they take loans for anything. They want to buy a phone, new phone, cars, this and that. To live according to what your level is, and to be patient, and never get yourself into this unease and the difficulties and the burden of being in debt. And if a person takes a loan and after all of that is considered, then he has to have the intention that he's going to pay it back on time. As the hadith of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, من أخذ أموال الناس يريد أداءها أدى الله عنه. Whoever takes the money of the people with the intention that he wants to pay them back, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make him pay it back, and he paid back for him. ومن أخذها يريد إتلافها. Whoever takes it wants to waste it and no intentions to return it back, أتلفه الله. It's a very scary part of the statement. أتلفه الله, that means Allah would ruin him. Itlaf is when you ruin something, when you tear something apart. So this is what's going to happen to that person. So with that intention. And of course, no increase, no benefit. And the benefit can be either increase something that is stated in the contract, or it can be another contract, which is haram. Give me a loan and I will do this for you. Or I'll clean your yard for this season. This is all haram. This is benefit as a result of the qard, which is not permissible. We talked about bay'ul ina. Remember? Someone has money, so he would purchase something in a deferred payment. So he would, I'm sorry, he doesn't have money. So he go purchase something worth 1,000, for example, for the payment to be deferred. And then once he takes it, then he sells it back to the same person that he purchased it from for 700 cash. So it's nothing but a loan that is made of riba. And if it's to someone else, there's differences of opinions in this. To document the loan, as the ayah of in Surah Al-Baqarah, the longest ayah in the Quran, to make sure that it's documented if a person takes a loan, and to have witnesses, and it's not because the person he thinks that his brother is going to betray him or to lie. People should be at ease with writing things down, because of what if someone gave a loan to someone and then a person died 1 hour afterwards. Nobody knows anything. And that's why everything has to be recorded for the rights, because now if one died, it's not his money anymore. It's the money of the heirs. So this is their rights. It's not the right of the one that took the loan upon himself, because it doesn't get wrote off or something like this as a result of one's death. That's why the importance of the wasiyah, someone has loans, and to do it as soon as possible. And if someone has the means and he doesn't pay back his loan, this is dhulm matlul ghani dhulm. And if a person is not able to pay it, فَنَظِرَةٌ إِلَى مَيْسَرَةٍ, it is not permissible for you to file a suit against him, for example, if he's not able to. But if he has the means, then you can, take the means to take your money, but not to transgress. And many other things, of course. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us, to protect us from the evil within our own selves. The next chapter is Al-Ijara, which is Al-Ijara is, what's it called in English? Very good. Leasing, renting, and hiring. This all comes under the Ijara. Al-Ijara. Because Al-Ijara is when you rent something, so this is different than buying or selling. And when you work for someone, you are ajir. You're basically renting yourself, your time or your actions. And so what is the rulings of it, some of the conditions of it? But we'll do that inshallah ta'ala next time. Hadith inshallah. We'll take a hadith from the last section, which is from Sahih al-Bukhari rahimahullah. Kitab al-Tawheed in Sahih al-Bukhari. We took, I think it's 171. 171. Hadith 171. عن أبي موسى الأشعري رضي الله عنه قال قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ما أحد أصبر على أذى سمعه من الله ما أحد أصبر على أذى سمعه من الله it's wrong for me to stop like this because it changes the meaning, but I'm just saying because of the repetition. So let's say it again. ما أحد أصبر على أذى سمعه من الله. Or even better to say ما أحد أصبر على أذى سمعه من الله. يدعون له الولد. We'll talk about that because either يدعون أو يدعون, but here it says يدعون له الولد ثم يعافيهم ويرزقهم. ثم يعافيهم ويرزقهم. And you would find some of the words of the hadith. For example, إنهم لا يدعون له ولدا وإنه لا يعافيهم ويرزقهم. The meaning of the hadith: ما أحد أصبر على أذى سمعه من الله. No one أصبر. أصبر is from a sabr. No one is more patient. This أفعل تفضيل. When you say الصبر is patience. أصبر, more patient. So no one is more patient. على أذى. الأذى is the harm. Or anything that is not good. From a human perspective, when someone says something bad about you, this is adha, right? This is adha, that means, I don't know, they translate it as harm. So this is a bad thing. Someone is saying bad thing to you. So no one have more patience from evil things that are being said, sami'ahu, that he would hear it more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You name any human being on the face of earth, they have limits on how people would annoy them with bad things that they would say. We're not talking about someone would beat up someone. Imagine an individual, people start saying bad things about him and they're lying, and they keep on lying and accusing that person of all kinds of things. And he has the means, especially that if he has the means to do something about it. He might be patient one time, 2 times, 3 times, but then after that, he's not going to be like this. So no one is more patient from having adha or bad things to be said to him min Allah, more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? يدعون له الولد. They claim to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he has a son. ثم يعافيهم. Then he is giving them mu'afa. He is giving them strength. And al-mu'afa is physical strength, materialistic strength, having offsprings, family, life is normal, life is great. وَيَرْزُقُهُمْ, and he provides for them. And this is the meaning of the hadith, because of how they still continue to attribute to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala this evil by claiming that he has a son subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is adha. This is cursing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As it's mentioned in one of the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, shatamani abdi. My slave, he curses me, he reviles me. You know, say, ash-shatm is when you curse someone, when you cuss someone. So the people, they do that day and night to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? When they attribute to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a son. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that clearly in the Quran. تكاد السماوات وتفطرن منه وتنشق الأرض وتخر الجبال هدا أن دعوا, same word, أن دعوا للرحمن ولدا وما ينبغي للرحمن أن يتخذ ولدا إن كل من في السماوات والأرض إلا آتي الرحمن عبدا قد أحصاهم وعدهم عدا. الآيات in the end of Surah Maryam, that it's almost the skies will split and open asunder, or and the earth will be destroyed and the mountains will be destroyed. All of that for what? That they claim that Allah has a son. But this is not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing to them. And this is the meaning of the hadith. And that's the ayah, تكاد السماوات, takad المقاربة, almost, that the heavens this will happen to it. And the earth will be destroyed. And the mountains will be destroyed. Why is that? Because they claim that Allah has a son. وَمَا يَنْبَغِي لِلرَّحْمَنِ أَن يَتَّخِذَ وَلَدًا. It does not befit to Ar-Rahman, the most beneficent, the most merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he has a son. إن كل من في السماوات والأرض إلا آتي الرحمن عبدا. All of what's in the heavens and the earth, they're coming to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as abd, as slaves of Allah, submitted themselves to Allah. And Isa alayhi salam was a slave of Allah and a messenger of Allah. And this is also clearly stated in the Quran. And he said that about himself, إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ أَتَانِيَ الْكِتَابِ وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا. And the highest level that a human being can reach is to be a abd to Allah, to fulfill the ubudiyya to Allah. So the hadith is, first of all, Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, he put it in the chapter of Tawheed because of the attributes of Allah. So here attributing this attribute to Allah, which is as-sabr. As-sabr to the human beings might involve, from the human being, mujahada, struggle, it's bitter, things like this. But if something the Prophet ﷺ attributed to Allah, the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are perfect. And it's asma'un husna wa sifat ula. It's the most perfect attributes, no deficiencies, no weakness, nothing of this whatsoever. And the same rules applies. The ways of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah in applying this. What's the first rule? We approve, we believe, we confirm what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned about himself and what his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. We believe in it the way it is. We know the meaning of it. And we do not alter the meaning. We don't say something else. We don't deny it. We say it the way it is. The Prophet ﷺ said it. And we don't alter it. No tamthil, no similarities. No saying the similarities of thinking of the human beings. Nothing is the like of Allah. ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. And the third principle is نقطع الطمع في الوصول إلى الكيفية. We cut all the leads to make a person think of how. How is this attribute? We don't know how. We only believe in it the way it is, like this. So to be clear also, because there's so much talk here and there to deviate people from the belief of Ahl Sunnah, there's a word called at-tafweed. Tafweed is when you say Allahu A'lam. Allah knows what is this. And people, they claim that Ahl Sunnah, they make tafweed. They say Allahu A'lam. What does that mean? Did you hear the hadith? Yes. What does it mean? Is as we heard. So don't say Allahu A'lam, what does it mean? You say Allahu A'lam, how it is. Major difference between both. And this is almost everyone from those who are upon the Ash'ari or Maturidi, they have to mention this. Allah knows best. What does that mean? No, that means the Quran is not kitabun Arabiyyun mubin. The meaning is clear. But what we do not know is how. Al-kayfiyya. How this is. ليس كمثله شيء والسميع البصير. We do not know how. But the meaning is clear. So Ahl Sunnah لا يفوضون المعنى. Ahl Sunnah, they don't make tafweed. It's called tafweed. You leave the matter to Allah. They don't make tafweed in the meaning. They make tafweed in the kayf, in the how these attributes are. So we affirm what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about himself, or the Prophet ﷺ said, without attributing any weaknesses and deficiencies. And those who change and alter, good intentions there, sure, no problem. And that's why they are not like the Jahmis, for example. But it's still falsehood, it's still deviation. And the reason why they fell into this, as always have to be remembered, is that they fall into the tashbih. They're the ones that are making tashbih, not Ahl Sunnah. They keep on saying that Ahl Sunnah are mujassima. They're making tashbih of Allah to His creation. No, you are the ones that are making tashbih to Allah. How is that? Because when you hear a hadith like this, what's the first thing that comes into your mind? Human beings. Is it asbar, like the human beings? They would have sabr and being in pain and things like this. So you made the tashbih, then as a result of that, you get scared so much and you see how evil that is. A'udhu billah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing is the like of him. So let's change the meaning of it. No, it really doesn't mean this. It means that Allah does not punish them. That's what they say, for example. So they're the ones that made the tashbih, that led them to change and to alter the meanings. Don't make tashbih so that you don't alter. And this is what the meaning of Ahl Sunnah when they say no tashbih. We don't make tashbih, but we affirm what is being said. And even the words that we say, we don't invent words that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't say. So with that, don't say therefore, since therefore. We don't, therefore that means you know how. Since no one asbar ala adan sami'a min Allah, therefore, no, we don't talk about this unless there's an evidence. And the outcome or the athar, sure we can talk about it. The athar is, meaning the outcome of this, which to them, sorry I'm confusing between them and Ahl Sunnah and things like this, but to them, they talk about the athar, they talk about the outcome of this. We can say, yes, the outcome of this is they're not immediately punished. But that's not the meaning of asbar. You see the difference here. So the outcome of that, they're not to be punished immediately. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them time, yu'afihim wa yarzuqhum. So going back then to the, when the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they heard this, they didn't have to go through all of this, but because of people change things, then you have to bring back things to its original form, then you benefit from the hadith. And the hadith, it shows again the evilness of shirk, associating partners with Allah, and attributing these evil things to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give people al-afiyah and strength and provisions in this life is not a sign of anything. It's not a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with someone, because here, someone that would do this much evil and still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them so much strength and so much provisions. So for someone to link between al-afiyah wa rizq, the strength and the provisions for being obedient to Allah, this is wrong. Where did you come up with this? This is invented ideas that people invent. It has nothing to do with the reality. You are tested in this life with whether you're given afiyah or you don't. We like to have afiyah in all matters, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. But it's not a sign of a person is pleasing to Allah or the opposite. What's a sign that a person is close to Allah or not is قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبُكُمُ اللَّهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala love you if you follow the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And this is how the sign for a person to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with him, and one of which is this evidence. Those people that curse Allah, those people that commit evil and atrocities and shed blood, and they still eat and drink and they laugh and they have wealth and children and so on. And if they continue to be that way and they die in that state, they are the most people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is angry with. But He leave them in this life because this life is a test. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَانْتَصَرَ مِنْهُمْ. As He said subhanahu wa ta'ala, if Allah will, He will make you victorious over them. وَلَكِنْ لِيَبْلُوَ بَعْضُكُمْ بِبَعْضٍ. But to make you tested with one another. This is the reality of this life. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the understanding of it, inshallah. If you have any questions. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم ربنا وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.